Alright, my little pretties, what's up? It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions here. Welcome back to another episode of Shadows and Pretties. So, this is episode 51. And I want to say right now that my brother's birthday was the other day. And yeah, his birthday was good. We didn't do too much due to the pandemic, but, it was still pretty good nevertheless. So, with that being said, we are going to basically, review another fairy tale movie in this episode. So today we're going to be doing Hansel and Gretel. Now we are going to talk about The Witch Hunters that came out in 2013, which is a action horror film directed by Tommy Wirkola. And of course, we will be talking about the original fairy tale Hansel and Gretel, which has been directed over the years, and we'll talk about, the friendly version of it. So, before I get on with the Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, I am going to explain that it was originally going to be released in March of 2012, but the film was delayed 10 months due to Jeremy Renner's appearances in The Avengers and the Bourne Legacy. So, of course, they had to, push the additional time to, 2013. So, with that being the case, I am going to sit there and explain about how this came to be. Now, development first started sometime shortly after 2010. So, of course, they were, had to do some castings and that. And this movie features Hansel and Gretel as older people. Like, they're all grown-ups, they're not kids. Well, there were some scenes where they were kids, and they've been for the original fairy tale. So, we'll begin with the classic fairy tale. So, basically what happens in the classic fairy tale will be about Hansel and Gretel lives with their father, who's a woodcutter, and their stepmother, the evil one, who basically, doesn't want any children around her because, life is struggling. They've been struggling to try to, feed their kids. But, however, the stepmother and the woodcutter can't seem to make enough money. So, they end up taking the children to the woods and leaving them alone to die. But Hansel managed to collect some pebbles the night before, and they ventured back to their home. But, of course, same thing happens again the next day. As the stepmother wanted to lose the children, they finally do lose the children during the second time, as Hansel didn't have time to get the pebbles, but he made a trail of breadcrumbs, but only the fact that the breadcrumbs were eaten by the animals. So Hansel and Gretel ended up wandering around the forest for a while, and they ended up getting lost. So, with that being said, they eventually with that being the case, they ended up going into a gingerbread house, and of course, an old woman lives in there, or aka witch, who lives in there. So when the witch welcomes Hansel and Gretel into her home, which is made of gingerbread, she basically makes them food. So later on, as she makes them, whatever they like to eat, she grabs Hansel and puts them you could already take a guess, puts Hansel in the cage, and that's when, Hansel and Gretel end up getting, more messed up in many ways I could count. So, when Hansel and Gretel ends up getting, I guess you could definitely say, when Gretel ends up and Hansel end up, Gretel's doing all the work, and Hansel is, you could already guess he's like in the cage and he's eating. He basically tricks the old woman or witch by using like a chicken bone instead of, a finger. When the witch wants to see his finger, she uses a chicken bone instead. And that basically, provides a little bit of something in that mind. So that's when Hansel and Gretel start tricking the witch, and they start doing some other things to it. And that's when the wicked witch starts, getting upset and decides, I will eat Hansel no matter if he's thin or fat or whatever. So, with that being said, Hansel and Gretel ends up having to defeat the witch by having Hansel to shove the witch into the oven when she prepares to cook Hansel. So, of course, in some versions, they basically get the gold from the witch, and the spell is broken and free the children who were gingerbreads. And other fairy tales, they run all the way back until they reach home, having to reach the woodcutter, and he basically explains that their stepmother is dead, but it's unsure how. Sure, she might have, taken her own life, which it is a possibility, so I'm not really too sure. But with that being in the case, we're going to be sitting here, and it's a really good fairy tale and a really good story. So this story is about cannibalism. Well, not really, but it's about a witch who, you know, eats kids, and it's just, oh my goodness, it's very messed up. And this kind of stuff happens, in real life to different tribes and that, and it's very disgusting. Not this, well, it's not only disgusting, it's just messed up. So with that being said, I am going to be explaining what Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters is about, and then I'll be talking about the original fairy tales, that how, the versions came to be. So the plot begins with the, classic fairy tale, abandoned by their father in the forest, enter a gingerbread house, and yeah. And as 15 years that follow, yes, it takes 15 years after the original fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel became framed witch hunters who sit there and slaying hundreds of witches, and the pair are somehow immune to spells and curses. But the incident in the gingerbread house has left Hansel changed with the magic induced from form of diabetes that he needs insulin every few hours or he dies. Yeah, very, very something that didn't really appear, and I could definitely say it's very, very something. I'm definitely gonna say that it's very something. The plot starts out pretty interesting. So now adults Hansel and Gretel arrive in the town of Augsburg, and they apparently have to prevent the sheriff from executing a beautiful young woman named Minna, which for witchcraft, which is Mina. So the mayor, Egelman, has hired the siblings to rescue the town's missing children, presuming to be abducted by witches. So of course, Beringer hires his trackers to do the same mission in hopes of disgracing the mayor and his commencing of power. So Hansel and Gretel capture the Horned Witch and discover that the witches are preparing for some sort of coming blood moon, which is kind of like a, plan or something, where they plan to sacrifice 12 children to gain humanity from fire, and as their great weakness. So when the Grand Witch Muriel attacks the town in an army, abducts the child and kills Jackson and attacks Gretel, who is rescued by Ben, who is a local teenager and fan of them, who became a witch hunter himself. So Hansel falls from a witch's broomstick and lost in the forest. So the next morning, Mina finds him hanging in the trees and then takes him to a nearby spring where she heals his wounds, and basically Hansel and Mina, going at it. When you hear the term going at it, you probably could already guess what's happening. I really don't need to go into detail because I'm trying to make it, ad friendly as possible. So Gretel gets attacked by Beringer and his goons, and they start beating her up before being stomped on by Edward, who is Muriel's troll. So Edward tells Gretel that he helped her because trolls serve witches, and Hansel and Gretel never discovered an abandoned cabin, that they learned later on that it was basically a witch's lair in their childhood home, and Muriel tells them the truth about the past. And oh boy, this is when things start to take a twist for a different turn. So, with that being the case, Hansel and Gretel's mother was a white witch named Adriana, who was married to a farmer, or woodcutter, explaining to siblings the humanity of black magic. On the night of the last blood moon, Muriel planned to use the heart of the White Witch to complete her potion. She found Adriana too powerful, decides to use Gretel's heart instead, only to get rid of Adriana. But she is revealed the townspeople that Adriana was a witch, resulting in an angry mob to burn her alive and basically kill Hansel and Gretel's father, who had tried to protect them by living them in the forest. So, yeah. I'm surprised that, with witchcraft and that, this stuff really did happen back a long time ago. So I could definitely say, with witchcraft, even though I'm not really, I don't do witchcraft or anything, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, it's sad that this stuff really happened, back then, even years ago. So you guys could probably understand and see, how messed up it is. So Muriel, stabs Hansel and kidnaps Gretel to complete her long-due ceremony. When Hansel wakes up with Mina, who reveals herself to be the White Witch, she then heals him and gives him some sort of textbook to bless in weapons. So Hansel and Mina and Ben disrupt the blood moon, and they basically, Mina slaughters all the dark witches with the Gatling gun. And while that being the case, Hansel frees his children while Edward defies Muriel and releases Gretel before Muriel throws him off the cliff. So Hansel, Ben, and Mina follow Muriel's trail to the original gingerbread house house now rotten and decayed, and Muriel kills Mina before Hansel shoots her. So the siblings engage Muriel in a brutal fight, at which ends up Gretel basically killing Muriel by, well, basically slicing the head of the Wicked Witch. I know it's pretty messed up, eh? So they burn the body and they basically collect their reward for rescuing the children. And at the end, they headed out for the next witch hunt, now accompanied by Ben and Edward. And during the credits, we see Hansel and Gretel slay a desert witch, which is very surprising. So that was actually Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. I actually found this movie to be rather entertaining and really interesting, especially with the fact that, with the whole story in detail, and the fact that it's based on this story. They just kind of make it like a dark fairy tale twist. It's no doubt that if anyone were to sit there and do that, that would have been a really interesting fairy tale of its own self. Like when I first saw this movie back sometime in 2013, I actually found this movie to be rather amazing, dark, and very well made. It's actually a pretty interesting concept with, Hansel and Gretel becoming adults and they start, fighting all the witches. Oh my goodness. The witches were really, dark and really well done. Especially Muriel. Like, I was Muriel for Halloween one year, and oh my goodness. It was just so dark, messed up, and it was just really well done and made. So, I'm definitely gonna have to say it was actually a really well made concept with the whole, ordeal of, what happens. So I could definitely say with the whole, ordeal with the Wicked Witch and, I did not know Gretel being like a witch was like an idea from people, but it's just the movie. So they just had really good ideas. So with that being said, I'm going to sit here and explain. Now there is an extended edition to, well, you could probably already guess Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, but you can't really see that in the original. You have to see that in like an extended cut. And it includes some pretty more messed up stuff. So just to let you know, some of that stuff might, trigger you guys. I'm not going to go into full detail on what actually they mean. But I'm going to shortly, sit there and explain, certain stuff that become the case. So then that way, you guys get the whole, idea basically of its own self. So with that being said, I'm going to sit here and, go ahead and explain right now. So, basically, aside the profanity and gore and some, X-rated content, a few extra lines, the extended version, it features a few extra scenes. In one scene, the Ranger blames the mayor for the witch's attack, and he basically murders him in public. And then the next scene where, the sheriff and his goons, attack Gretel is also extended, which, of course, it has a scene where basically shows the men planning to, I guess, I'm gonna say, how do I put this in the ad-friendly way? Violate Gretel right before Edward kills them. Yeah, he planned to violate Gretel in many ways. So you could probably understand what I mean by violate. You could probably, imagine, what they were gonna sit there and do to Gretel. And I'm gonna definitely say, even though that was disturbing, I'm definitely going to say it's not, going to Sweet Apple Massacre territory. And thank God it's not sitting there, going into Sweet Apple Massacre territory. And oh my goodness. Because if it ever did, I would basically jump out of my window. Because that's just messed up. And I know they wouldn't do that in Sweet Apple Massacre, but I know they did that in Sweet Apple Massacre. I know they wouldn't, nobody would sit there and do that. But it's just to be honest, the truth and opinion. So, okay, so with that being the case, I am going to sit there and, basically explain to you guys more info on stuff. So, with that being the case, I guess I can kind of explain, some different versions of the original children's fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. So, there were versions of it, such as, well, the Brothers Grimm, which is one of them, the Brothers Grimm one that was famous for that, and basically there was, like, different fairy tales of it. So of course we do see other fairy tales, and of course mainly the first one or something was created by, the plot's kind of the same as the original fairy tale, except there were some different versions of it as well. So I could definitely say this right here right now, that there were further comparisons. So of course, with that being the case, I'm gonna sit here and, kind of explain, right here, right now, that it's actually a very interesting stuff. So, with some comparisons they have did over the years, like a lot of times they have made over the years. They of course have the musical play. They had some movies based on it. And to be honest, it's actually a pretty interesting one that they have, certain fairy tales, like certain movies and different versions when it came to that. So with that being the case, I'm gonna sit there and kind of go explain in what certain parts of the episodes were. So definitely with that being said, basically there was a few versions where you could definitely say this right now that the stepmother has there was, I think, a version or something where they had devils or something in there, like the devil was with the witch or something. I can't really remember if that is actually the case, but I could be wrong. There's different illustrations and different ones, like it's just so much to go on and on. So of course, with that being said, there was one where they start doing his usual thing. It's unknown of what happened to his wife, so it's hard to say. She might have taken her own life or something like that. It's hard to say because we obviously have no idea. Alright, and with that being the case, there are some versions where, basically there's like a vase full of treasure, and yeah, I'm not so sure why treasure wasn't incorporated in some parts, but, with that being said, they ended up being delighted, and with the witch's wealth, they ended up living happily ever after, and they end up, doing their usual thing, basically sitting there and, getting a whole bunch of, have a whole bunch of money, and they were never poor anymore. And there's other versions where it sits there. Now the witch in this is also blindness, so she is fooled to think that Hansel is still too thin to eat. So yeah, that's actually very much something. So I kind of already talked about it, but there are different versions where I believe there was a demon incorporated in it, but I could be wrong. If you guys want to point that out to me, feel free to comment in the video because I would like to, see about that. So I guess I'm gonna sit there and explain this right now. That what did you guys think of the fairy tale? Did you find it disturbing? Did you not? Also, what you have done personally to help make the fairy tale a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I could definitely say the Witch Hunters 1 movie was awesome, although disturbing at parts, and same thing could be said with the original fairy tale. But the one that children already know, the most kid-friendly ones were pretty fun, even though they were disturbing. Yet I am willing to agree, but it's actually a really neat story, and it's a really good one for children to know about it. Not to eat, places that strain from strangers and stuff, not to talk to them. Same thing with the Little Red Riding Hood one, but I thought I would kind of go ahead and make a kind of a mention of it, just so that you guys can sit there and understand where I'm coming from. So, okay. I think I kind of sit there and explain, certain what I liked about the fairy tale and what I didn't like. What I didn't really like is what they were portraying, but I know it's just a story, so I'm not gonna, argue too much. But with that being said, what did you guys think of Hansel and Gretel fairy tale? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell when I upload so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out of here. And I will be catching you all in the next video. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, I will be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out, everyone.